Hi, welcome to a news episode of Sports Talk Central. I'm your host, Adit Mahmood, with my normal co-host Hunter. And today we're going to be talking a little bit NFL preseason. And even though I know that it's probably not the most exciting moment, but it's a moment. It's a time to see some of the nice backup players, the second-rate players we don't get a chance to see, get a chance in regular season. So let's start with Ravens and Steelers. Obviously, Steelers played first in the preseason game. What were your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They won that game on Friday night. The first team offense really only played one series, but I walked away fairly impressed. I saw things from Kenny Pickett in this game. And again, granted, let's be real here. It's preseason. I'm not going to make any proclamations here, but the things I did see were already much improved compared to last year. For example, I thought his pocket presence was much improved. He wasn't bailing on clean pockets like you kind of saw him do a little bit at times last season. And also when he would get out of the pocket, he would scramble left or right and he would hit an open receiver. I think he's a very deadly quarterback on the move. And the touchdown pass that he had to George Pickens from 33 yards out, he fired an absolute seed to him right down. He was like a regular slant route. Pickens catches it and then it has a beautiful juke move on one of the Tampa Bay secondary plays. And I know the Bucs are kind of playing a lot of their second stringers. So again, I'm not going to make all these proclamations here, but that was probably one of the best drives I've seen from the Steelers first team offense in quite some time. If Kenny Pickett can play like that during the regular season against some really good opponents, it might be time for me to start lying here. I think that's the biggest thing I can say. But, he is the big key to this team this year. They're very talented on offense. They have a lot of young pieces. Their defense is really good. But if he can take that next step, I see them as a playoff team this upcoming season. Maybe best case he can turn into like a mini Justin Herbert. That would be awesome. I don't think he's going to be like a Jalen Hurts or a Joe Burrow or a Pat Mahomes or anything like that. But if he can maybe turn into like a very mini version of Justin Herbert, I would walk away fairly pleased with that. But I was very impressed with him. Just looked night and day compared to year one. Deontay Johnson played well. I think Pickett to Pickens is going to be awesome throughout the season. I thought Nick Herbig on defense was very good. Quan Alexander was playing like a wrecking ball. He was hitting everything in sight. I think he's probably going to be a starter for this team this upcoming season. Some of the other players, Keanu Benton, I actually enjoyed his play as well before he got a little dinged up. Darnell Washington is an absolute monster on the offensive line. But I really didn't walk away unimpressed by any of the players that played. The backups were fine. But I think the biggest thing is it's so competitive from 90 down to 53. There's going to be a lot of players that the Steelers cut that are going to find their way onto other teams, and that could start. Like, that's the reality of the situation. I think this is probably one of the deeper teams in the league. And I think that's going to make some cuts harder for Mike Tomlin than in recent years. Outside of some of those guys, quarterback position, I like Mason Rudolph. His deep ball, very good. Calvin Austin has speed for days. I think he can be a really underrated weapon for the Steelers offense this upcoming season. I like, I almost forgot his name for a second. I like Cole Holcomb. I think he's going to probably lead the linebackers in tackles this upcoming season. Landon Roberts was also pretty good in terms of a linebacker for the Steelers. Yeah, I walked away fairly impressed with this game. You can't really make too many big observations off of it, but for the players that I just mentioned and just overall from that game, I'm cautiously optimistic heading into the season. Again, if the first team offense can play like that against adequate starters around the NFL, I think this team is going to be slept on, or not slept on, excuse me, but I think this team is going to prove some people wrong this upcoming season.
Yeah, I think part of it was the Steelers is they actually do have a deeper roster than people give them credit for.
Yeah.
Calvin Austin was out for the year last season, but he gives you an added threat. Obviously you got Connor Haywood. Look, you got guys like one of the points I was making before we started this topic was we get to see a lot of these second, third string guys. Like these guys, like we know Deontay Johnson, we know George Pickens, like we know like all these guys, like Darnell Washington got a cap. But it's not like you need him. The Steelers need him to be this really good pass catching tight end. If he can block, like all he needs to do is set the edge and block for the running game. If he can do that really well, he's gonna do. That's what he's gonna do. It's gonna be a successful rookie season. But yeah, from the Buccaneers side, you said everything about the Steelers side, but the Buccaneers side, it's interesting. Obviously, the big question is going to be the quarterback battle: Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask. I mean, granted, it's a battle of mid, but yeah.
Baker looked better of the two. I mean, he led a touchdown drive in the first half. If Baker Mayfield can't beat out Kyle Trask, you can go be a family man, buddy. I think that's just the reality situation. I expect him to get the starter's job. He played fine. Again, it's preseason against most of the Steelers. Well, I should say most of the Steelers backups. So there were a few starters in there. Don't get me wrong, but I thought he played fine, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think part of it is also, if you think about it, obviously, look, he was drafted by Cleveland. We know that we had the struggles there. And by the way, if you haven't seen the Johnny Manziel Netflix documentary, I mean, they don't like the fact that he said he watched like 0 minutes. It clearly, there's a certain personality doesn't fit in Cleveland. But then you saw him go to the Rams, and he actually had success there. He actually had some good moments, like every once in a while. So I think one of the big moments with him in Tampa Bay is this is going to be his third team. Is he going to be closer to the Rams version Baker Mayfield or the Browns? And you're right. If he doesn't beat out Kyle Trask, go like you might be. You need to go either hope that another team is looking at you.
I said it best. You can go be a family man.
Yeah. So and then and obviously like the Buccaneers, they could also be in position for a quarterback next season. They could very well be like in the first round. So that's going to be on the Steelers. When it comes to the Ravens,
24 straight.
24 straight. Yep. So I mean, first of all, the Baltimore Sports got two streaks last season. Last night. Ravens 24 straight preseason games. It just goes to show the depth. It's a preseason streak. Like I could care less about it. And then the Orioles were, and we're not talking about the Orioles, but the Orioles just had their 76 straight series without being swept. So both Baltimore teams continued their streak. But yeah,
do you care about that 24 game winning streak, or do you just like who cares?
As a fan, I could care less, but I feel like if I'm a player, especially if I'm like a Justice Hill type, if I'm a Daryl Worley type, if I help a team, if I help continue the streak, then I'm going to likely be on the team. That's kind of, I think the players care about it. I don't think the fans necessarily care about it because 24 straight, okay, that's cool, whatever. It's like if they lose, like who cares? So, and also, and with when Dobbins got hurt a couple years ago, actually, I think Harbaugh just stopped pulling the starters. So this win streak at this point is really more so for the backups. And one of the things I was looking forward to seeing is seeing some of these guys, which one of these guys is going to step up and be the third, fourth, fifth piece, right? I was looking because Likely made some Isaiah Likely, Charlie Kolar, Justice Hill made a few good runs, and I know there's rumors that the Ravens and Dobbins are engaged in contract talks. We don't know if I don't know if they were going if he's going to sign whatever contract, but if you take him out, they have a nice running back depth. Dobbins obviously is your best running back, but Justice Hill looks like he's good. I feel like he's gonna be a good fit for the Todd Monken offense and not as much for the Greg Roman offense. Keaton Mitchell, the son of Anthony Mitchell, had a few nice runs. Zay Flowers. I know as a Steelers fan, you were probably annoyed with the Torrey Smith pass interference penalties. If this game's any indication, get ready for Zay Flowers and holding.
You want to know what I call those plays?
Lucky.
The heave and pray plays. You heave it and you pray to God for a flag. That was the Joe Flacco special with Torrey Smith.
Yeah, get ready for the holding with Zay Flowers because apparently like I think it was someone from NFL Network said you literally have to hold him to move around from him because
he's fast.
He's fast. Lamar calls him the joystick. He juked out a couple of guys, and he actually did something that Marquise Brown rarely did as a Raven. He blocked. So clear. I think you are starting to see why why he might be wide receiver 1. Obviously, we didn't see Bateman, we didn't see Odell. So it was nice to see some of these fourths or fifths. Like, here's what I think. The Ravens have 4. I think you can make an argument they got 5 receivers that are, we know they're top 5. Odell, Bateman, Flowers, Aguilar. I can't remember the.
I forgot Nelson Aguilar was there.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Duvernay. Sorry. Those are your
Right.
5. So then after that, your 6 wide receiver, Prochet, Tariq Black, Laquan Treadwell. Oh no, Zay Flowers. I mentioned Zay Flowers is one of the 5. So now your wide receiver 6, Tylan Wallace, Treadwell, Tariq Black, James Prochet, Dante Demas Jr. Prochet, I think, is going to lose his job because they were so lucky. He had to be so lucky that the Eagles couldn't convert, couldn't get a touchdown when on that short drive because Prochet caught on I think it was like a kickoff. Not a kickoff, it was a punt. He caught a punt and then fumbled it at like the 15. So that will get you in John Harbaugh's doghouse. I don't know if he makes it. The Ravens should not. And then okay, so I think that's gonna work. I think so we'll see what they do. Talon Rawls made a nice catch. I think he's a guy that might be served better with Todd Monken. The offense didn't look too good, but then again, I wonder if it's Todd Monken just saying we're not going to do the whole kitchen sink, and it's not these guys aren't really starting for us. These are basically who's going to get that special teams receiver job at the end. That's basically what it was. I am interested to see what Sean Ryan does. He made some great catches, especially later. Tyler Huntley, clearly number 2 quarterback. The number 3 quarterback seems to be either Josh Johnson or Anthony Brown. Let's see what happens if we are asking a question. I mean, something went wrong, so that's not really a big discussion point there. More points on the offense. Running backs, I mentioned it well. And then also Ben Cleveland, I don't think he's making this team. Because I wonder. I think you probably have seen on Twitter like the play where Jalen Carter just bulldozes.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
Yeah. Well, I wonder though because if it's just Jalen Carter, just have practiced against Ben Cleveland for years at Georgia, but this is a big off season for him. I will say,
I'm sick and tired of Justin Tucker. He just needs to retire already, dude. I'm tired of it.
Yeah, did you see? And Harbaugh's face, he still gets surprised every time. There's that, and then I will say Daniel Fale did play most of his snaps. Apparently, stamina was an issue for him last season, but then again, he's like 6'8", 390. So, or like six, yeah, like 6, yeah. So, that is a little bit of a challenge for him. So and then we'll see continue with the O line. It is interesting. They do have Pat Ricard playing left guard now. So Pat Ricard, who was the blocking tight end fullback, it was what role did he have on this team, especially if you're keeping Ben Mason. The idea now is it's interesting with Ricard being your left guard. It's now giving him a spot. As for defense, they didn't really set the edge well in the first quarter. There were moments where, and this is again, Ojabo hasn't played football in a long time. Played football for a long time, but he would do things where he would swim inside, and then Mariota could just go on the outside. And so these are things that they got to clean up. It was a little predictable, but again, this is all preseason. But it's definitely something that so it's some good moments, some bad, but at the end of the day, do you show enough on tape that they point out to in the meeting, say, this is what you should do next time, and this is a learning experience? Ojabo is still going to be a freakish athlete. He just needs to know that technique, harness it a little bit more, and it's going to be interesting there. Rest of the NFL. Oh, also before we do the rest of the NFL, the cornerbacks did struggle a little bit in the first half. I wonder if they are going to go after a William Jackson, a Bryce Callahan to add more depth into it, but they did kind of become more stingy in the second half. But that was when they had Tanner McKee, who was going to be the rookie, who was going to be their third string potentially for the Eagles. So speaking of Tanner McKee and the rookie quarterbacks, rest of the NFL, we have we have Bryce Young, Strode, Levis. We have all these quarterbacks making their debuts. We have other teams start with new players. Was there any takeaways from this week in preseason?
Man, CJ stunk. Did you see his stat line? 2 for 4, 13 yards, an interception, 1 sack for a loss of 15 yards.
Yeah.
Not good. I mean, it's the first preseason game, so people gotta chill with some of the takes. I saw some people saying, like, oh, like, what does this mean for the Texans starting quarterback job? Nothing. Unless CJ Stroud stinks next week or stinks the next 2 weeks, I don't think that means anything. I mean, it's just his first. He played a series or two. It's really not.
And also, it's not like the Texans are expected to be competitive.
No.
They're not. We'll see what they do.
I thought Bryce Young looked good. Yesterday he had a couple of really nice throws. The Tennessee situation is interesting. Levis made his debut. I thought Malik Willis led a really nice drive to start that game yesterday. One quarterback who I thought was really good, I don't know if you saw, Justin Fields, 3 for 3, 129 yards, something like that. 2 touchdowns, 158.3 passer rating.
Yeah.
The Bears, they're not going to be good this year. I don't think they will. But if Justin Fields can show that he is the answer there, first year, last year, a little bit better. But if he can improve into this season, show that he's the franchise guy, that team is going to turn around sooner rather than later. I think they just need to add a bit more talent. But I was really impressed with Justin Fields this weekend.
Also, the NFC North, it doesn't look like it's going to be. Jordan Love played decent. I mean, he was efficient in his thing. But again, do you really trust him for a year? Who knows who the Vikings quarterback is after this season, because it could be Cousins could leave, may not. Jaron Hall isn't exactly someone you are excited about. And then you have the old man in Sean Clifford for the Packers. Look, I'll be honest. Like, Sean Clifford was fairly good. 20 for 26, 208 yards. He's probably their backup, but I mean, it's gonna be interesting whether if Jordan Love does struggle this season, do they go and try Sean Clifford at the starter, or if they go out and draft another guy. So that's an interesting one.
I think they'll just stick with Jordan Love, in my opinion. I think they invested a lot into him, and I think they really want to, but not wait this out. That's a bad word. Like, see this through is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and then obviously Dorian Thompson-Robinson from the Browns. He
Right.
already had multiple preseason games. He's not. He's making the case for a backup job. Obviously, he's not going to be starting because the Browns would have to eat a ton of cap space for it. Let's see who else was there. Oh, Stetson Bennett makes his debut for the Ram. By the way, Sony Michel retired this season. You want to know a funny story? Sony Michel was a teammate of Stetson Bennett. That means Sony Michel was drafted into the NFL, won multiple Super Bowls, and retired all before Bennett ever played a snap in the NFL.
That's just crazy to think about. That's hilarious.
But yeah, no.
I'm trying to think of anything else that the Bengals had their preseason game without Joe Burrow, but I don't think he's going to play at all during the preseason as he gets back from the calf injury.
Probably when. Obviously, you had Jamar Chase say wait until week 5 to stay fully healthy. I don't know. I doubt he's going to wait for that.
I feel like he'll be back. I think he'll be back by week 1 in my opinion.
Yeah, he will. He will. Bennett just one last one. Bennett, obviously, he threw a couple interceptions, few interceptions to start, but he definitely did play well later on. So Hendon Hooker obviously didn't practice. You talked about, and then Anthony Richardson. He looked good. Clearly, they have a lot invested in him. Obviously, the Colts don't necessarily have the best culture there, team culture, but yeah, I mean, he's pretty good there. So that's the rest of the NFL. Oh no, and then I'm also just going back to the Ravens. Broderick Washington, D tackle, signed a 3-year extension. about 17.5 million, was about 10.5 in guaranteed money. The really great story was there was this whole thing a few years ago of the Ravens had a kicker, Kerry Vedvik. They traded Vedvik to a team, I forget which team it was, Vikings or Jets. No, it was to the Vikings for a couple of draft picks. One of those draft picks, he was a part. I think it was that trade netted a pick, and it would travel all the way to Broderick Washington. Now Broderick Washington is extended for three
That's
more
cool.
years. Great, good role player. I wonder what this means for Justin Madubuike because he's due for a new contract soon. So it's gonna be interesting there. This is a bit of a shorter episode. And next week I think we should focus. I think next time we talk, let's try to focus on Virginia Tech and just preview their season. Preview their season. I know that ESPN went over to Virginia Tech, so let's just focus on that next week. And then if
that sounds good. Yeah, we can do that. If we want to do a small recap of the preseason, we can do that too.
Yeah. All right. See you.
All right, later.